of Painesville that will be addressed by the campaign chairperson of the stakeholders who are in the opposition, Mr. Cassell Kuoh. His chairperson, Emmett Glassco, will address this press conference today. Ahead of the Liberia Football Association election, the election guidelines were released on today. So Mr. Glassco will address the media. Mr. Glassco, the media.
Okay, member of the FOSA, I say welcome again. Press statement on the election of the Liberia Football Association for Team Cassell. Today, March 9, 2026, club an unsigned blank carbon copy of the election guidelines. Within less than 6 hours, club also received updated election guidelines with the signature of Councillor Bien. Councillor Bien's signature on the updated document was unprofessional and disrespectful. Before we address the issue with the election guidelines and other matters that are very important to the peaceful election of the Liberia Football Association, we want to respectfully urge Councillor Bien to be very responsible in undertaking this election. The updated election guideline indicates that they were produced and signed by Councillor Bien on March 8, 2026. The question is how an updated document will be produced before the main document for which it was produced. Councillor Bien needs to explain how the document mailed to clubs on the 9th of March 2026 was updated on the 8th of March 2026. While we await the explanation for Councillor Bien, we believe Councillor Bien must backdate the update document to prove a point, which raised serious credibility issues regarding whether Councillor Bien can take on responsibility for this election without bias. Regarding the updated election guidelines submitted, as chairman of the campaign team of Mr. Cassell Kuoh, we have identified several issues, some of which will be addressed in this press statement. The first issue is that the election code used as a guide in the production of these election guidelines as presented to club has no signature which invalidates the totality of the document. As a campaign chair, we urge that every document used in this process should be authenticated by being signed by the framework or a representative of the framework of the document. The election code not being signed cannot be considered a valid document to rely on this election. We therefore require that the election code as used for this election should be signed by the framework to provide an authenticate for us to rely on. Also, the provision of the statute used in the updated guideline regarding appointments of vice president and other executive committee members does not seem to be aligned with the statute provided to members in the past. The updated statute presented to members were presented on August 23, 2025 by a representative of women football staff, Madam Kevin Lamy, to women football clubs, completely different from what is in the updated election guidelines. We are confused as to what statute the chairman of the election committee is using. We are calling on Councillor Bien to provide the statute presented to him by the LFA, which he is using as a guide for the production of the election guideline. The last statute provided to clause made provision for the election of vice presidents of the LFA, contrary to the election guidelines, which have no provisions for the election of vice president. Aware that amendments were made to the statute over time. These amendments should be presented to members. We will not accept any election where the executive committee provides to the secretariat a different set of statute and the same executive committee present a different set of statute to the election committee to be used as a guide for the election. We are therefore calling on the election committee to make sure that the statutes are presented to the committee to be presented to members as soon as possible for us to validate the amendments and claims to be done by Congress are actually amendments that were done by Congress. We have observed that the reason the executive committee has not provided the actual amended statute to the members is to set the stage for fraud in the election. Again, I want to make this clear that we will not accept any election that will have a signal of fraud. We are therefore urging the election committee to make sure that the statute presented to them to use as a guide is either the statute presented to members or that the election committee ensure that the statute they are using are presented to members. We want to inform the election committees and the public that the credibility of the president of the Liberia Football Association and the executive committee cannot be trusted. For the executive committee to refuse to provide its members with amended statute up to this point, but will provide the same to the election committee is unfortunate and will be unacceptable. Now, in the updated guidelines presented, there are few issues that need to be made clear. The Liberia Football Association is an independent member of both CAF and FIFA with its own statute to carry out its function. To present guidelines requesting us to use both CAF and FIFA statute and regulation is unacceptable. CAF and FIFA have different statutes and many regulations, requiring us to abide by these two statutes, which are also different and unspecified regulations for the two different federations are unacceptable and will not be accepted in this election. CAF does not use FIFA statute or its regulation in its election. In the same way, FIFA does not use CAF statute or its regulation in this election. The election committee must specify the actual guidelines as stipulated in our statute, and we may only revert to CAF or FIFA statute and regulation if there are no provision in our statute governing specific guidelines, and said guidelines must be clearly provided to members to be aware of the guidelines before attempting to participate in the election. How can we be made to subscribe to both CAF and FIFA statutes, CAF and FIFA statute and regulations, when these organizations have different statutes and regulations regarding specific issues? In the updated election guidelines, you also mention that the decision shall only be subject to review by the election appeal committee. This is also unacceptable as it does not conform to the LFA statute regarding seeking legal remedies in the judicial process of the Liberia Football Association. There are serious legal steps which end with the court of arbitration exposed, and this is a legal process that will be accepted in this election. The election committee also inserted in it updated election guidelines where they stated that candidates should not be eligible to participate in this election if they have been documented history of fraud, financial misconduct, or misappropriation of funds misappropriation of funds consistent with Article 45.4 of the Liberia Football Association Statute 2018 as amended 2021, 2022, and 2023. Councillor Bien, there has been no amendment made to our statute indicating your exception. Again, we require you to please make available these statutes you are taking all these information from. As per the statute provided to members, Article 45.4 states the president, vice president, and member of the executive committee shall not be younger than 25 years. A candidate for the office of president, vice president, and executive committee members must not play an active role in football. Example, a former player, former referee, former coach, medics, or an official within the LFA, and etc. for 2 years or the last 5 years before being proposed as a candidate for election. The president, vice president, and executive committee member shall have minimum qualification of high school diploma. They shall not have been found guilty of criminal offense. They shall have the Liberian nationality and shall have residence within the territory. As written above, if there are any other statutes stating what you claim in the guideline presented, we will appreciate for you to present it to members for verification. So that you will not be misled and appear unprofessional. We are asking the election committee to kindly request from the executive committee the original 2018 statute as signed by both Mr. Musa Belete and the late Emmanuel Diaz and ask for evidence of all the amendments made from the election before coming up with election guidelines for the election. Also, in the guideline, you mentioned that candidate must submit a complete application letter, a nomination letter for a member with the right to vote, and all supporting documents in the general secretariat on or before the 17th of March 2026 at 17 hours GMT. Councillor Bien, could you be specific on what supporting documents are needed to be submitted along with the application letter, and what do you refer to as general secretariat? There is no individual or specific person or position called general secretariat in the Liberia Football Association administration. To close, on the updated election guideline, the $1,000 fees for appeal are not only unrealistic but intended to prevent candidates from seeking justice in case of unfair treatment. And also, these funds show the intent for the election committee not to be fair to carry out its function. If you are sure you have no intention to cheat in this election, you will create a right atmosphere for candidates to seek legal redress. There is no legal basis to charge any fees for appeal. If you must charge fee, the fee must be reasonable. You cannot charge a fee higher than membership fee or the regular appeal fee in the LFA regulations. Finally, Councillor Bien, the members of the election committee, we want to respectfully inform you that we take this election very seriously and will not allow anything or anyone to jeopardize this election. We urge you to be as professional as possible and follow the necessary law regarding our election. members of the four estates, I thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the press statement read by the campaign chairperson of Mr. Cassell Kuoh, Emmett Glassco. So we'll take a few questions. We'll start with front page Africa, Jain Tumu.
Mr. Glassco, thank you for your press statement. I'm concerned because in your intro you say you are unaware of BN, and later on talk of your address and were subsequently referencing him as someone who should look at the election guidelines, should look at the lapses in the statute and what have you. So how do you compromise the two? Because initially you are talking about he not being qualified, unaware of him being the one who should lead the process. And another concern have to do with the issue of the guidelines. You talk about there was a quite recent I saw a flyer going around that the LFA excluded omitted the issue with the issue that have to do with FIFA and CAF. Do you think that on your part it was something that you didn't get a citation or the communication around is or false?
So again, let me say thank you from behalf of to Jahin. Okay, to your issue about beer. So we went to Congress, and he was actually on the substitute committee. I don't know why they suddenly changed. The LFA got its own reason that they changed the chairman on that committee, but we are very informed that the president fell off with the chairman, and he have to come in with somebody else. So being his close ally took charge. But again, we received the communication. So I think if you go through my press statement, you're going to see that the time interval, the time we received the documentation, and the time that the appointment came up, and the time the document was signed. So the document came to us this morning on signed. We had to raise a series of issues. I called the Deputy Secretary General and I raised the same issue. Immediately after I dropped the phone with him, we received a communication with that signed document from BN. So we always saying to him is that we don't know where he took all those guidelines from, all the place in the the election guidelines, because the LFA is run by our guided by our statute. So we want him to in our statute there's a provision specifically for elections. So we want him to go into the statute and look there and come up with a guideline, not to take something from Pluto or somebody say somewhere and draw something and give it to him and he come and use it. So his credibility is on the line. We want him to be professional in doing his job and not to be biased.
Next, we take Sylvester Tam of OKFM.
All right, so I'm Sylvester. I work for OKFM. I hear you talking about you don't want CAF and FIFA statutes to be infused within our activities. So don't you think that bringing in CAF and FIFA statute is meant to protect the integrity of the LFA, because the LFA is a place where people with integrity should serve?
Okay, so we are saying you cannot bring in FIFA statutes, a CAF statute, and regulation. FIFA and CAF got a whole set of regulations. The LFA has a regulation that govern that we all run with. So when there was an issue, then what we bring in FIFA CAF statute. But if you're talking about the regulation, it's a whole range. So where in the regulation we are not specific. Where in the regulation we are going to go into FIFA or CAF regulations and start working with our election. We think it's unfair. There is no way CAF will be hosting an election and use FIFA regulation, and there is no way FIFA will be hosting all election and start to use CAF regulation within the election. So we think it's fair. I mean, it's unfair.
Who's the quarterback system on State Radio?
Yeah, okay, Mr. Glassco, thanks. You talk about Councillor Bien and the document. Are you insinuating that this document came from somewhere else and then he just fixed his signature?
I'm 100% sure. because look at the time the appointment letter came in. Look at the time the communication came to us. Look at the time, I mean, the communication was signed. Look at the time they updated it. It came back to us. So I been that this, I mean, BN was in the know of this piece of paper that is sending around called the election guideline, right? If he were in the know, if he participated in there, his signature are going to be affixed to that. The members of that committee signature are going to be on that. But we cannot